I had just returned from a business trip, and I had to catch up on some reading. So I sat down and picked up a very prominent business magazine. And there on the cover, it said leadership. Not only that, but it said it contained the list of the world's best leaders. So I started reading, and the more I read, the more agitated I became. Sure, there was the list of the usual suspects, prominent business leaders, prominent politicians, but I knew the reputation of some of them. And I said, wait a minute. These people are in a high position, but that doesn't mean they're good leaders, let alone the world's best. And I read some more and I got more agitated because I also saw a list of sports stars and pop stars. And I said, wait a minute. These people are very talented individuals, but does this make them great leaders? And what I realized was that this magazine article was symptomatic of very fuzzy thinking about leadership. So what did I do? I wrote a book. Because I've taken some contrarian tough love and applied it to leadership in the hopes of making our view of leadership more precise so we can do what we need to do, which is identify and develop the leaders we desperately need today. And the first heresy is the difference of the roles and the skill sets between a specialist and a leader. A specialist is someone who focuses, who concentrates on a body of knowledge. It can be a process, it can be technology, but the key is focus on something very specific. And specialists are great. We've had fabulous specialists that have done wonderful things. But I know an awful lot of specialists who want no part of taking on the emotional baggage of leading people. And that's okay. Leadership is the ability to affect followers to achieve the organizational goals. It's a different skill set. And one of the biggest problems organizations have is they forget that they're different. They're not necessarily mutually exclusive, but they're different. And perhaps the best way to illustrate this is to look at sports. Look at the various teams. Great individual performers. Now look at the coaches and managers. Most often, the best coaches and managers were not the best players. Different skill set. In an organization. Oh, wait, did I say two dirty words? Authority and hierarchy? No, they're facts of life. If we want to achieve anything on a big scale, we have to have hierarchy and its derivative authority. And history is awash with examples, so I want to give you one. And I believe it's history's first consultant. So I want to go back over 3,000 years, and I want to get my Charlton Heston pose, because Moses has just led the Israelites out of Egypt, crossed the Red Sea, and is now in the wilderness of the Sinai. And Moses is visited by history's first consultant, his father-in-law, Jethro. This is in the book of Exodus. And Jethro, who was not an Israelite, comes down from the mountains, and he wants to see how his son-in-law Moses is doing. And it's a mess. Moses is besieged by every Israelite with all their problems. And Jethro looks at this and pulls Moses aside. And he says, you can't do this alone. And then Jethro gives Moses great advice. He says, select good men, men of ability, men who are trustworthy, and put them over this number of Israelites. And then put good men above them, and good men above them. And they will solve most of the problems, and only the most important will come to you. And Moses did as Jethro suggested. And Moses led the Israelites for 40 years through the wilderness and to the borders of the promised land. Jethro went back up in the mountains. And unfortunately, for history, we have no idea what fee he charged. And so if we are going to identify and develop the leaders we need, we have to do more work. We can't just write some list of celebrities and pretend it's a bunch of leaders. We've really got to do more work and be more precise. And we need to do it now because we need better leaders today. So let's start. Thank you.